Welcome to Tya Talk. It's been a while. it's
It has been a
been a while
while.
for me at least. I'm in this echo chamber here. I need to finish getting my office set up. We were running late yesterday with everything, but so this is my new office, and it will be my new studio. But right now it's just a room. But I have stone floors and no hard walls, so there's lots of echo going on. But it's okay because I'm just happy to be back and to be on. I haven't been on in really a while, a few months. So took some time off to remodel this house. We got all that done, and then now that we're getting moved in and getting settled, I'm really looking forward to getting back into doing Tya Talk and Claim Your Power and everything else that we do every single week. So I've really, really, really missed doing all of this stuff. So I'm happy to be joined today by Carrie. You all know Carrie probably. Carrie King. Tya Master, Carrie King.
Tya Master of
Master
I don't know.
Manifestor. Your volume's cutting out a little bit.
Is it? And I don't have my earplugs. It's probably my internet. You can't hear me.
You were cutting out there for a second, but you're okay now. So what we're going to dive into today, topic for today, and if you're watching us live, and I know some of you are on, say hello, pop a comment, and make sure you're popping the comments through YouTube because that's how we see them on our side over here. If you're just commenting on Patreon, we don't see that until after the show. So to comment live in the show, you've got to click on, is it like a YouTube banner or something at the bottom? And if you're watching this, you probably already know that. I just thought we have some new people on Patreon, so I thought I would share that. But welcome to the broadcast. We are live right now. And if you're watching in the future, that's cool too, because we're going to share some interesting information. What I really want to get into is, hi, Sam Page. Good to see you on.
Hi, Sam.
What I really is that definitely if you are following the news or social media, for the last 2 years, it seems like the world is just continually imploding. Like more bad news, more scary things happening. And I don't know that there's any more or less other than the fact that it's amped up by the media. The stream refers to that very often as the Matrix. The Matrix is the collective consciousness of humanity. And so when you hear us referring, when I say us, I mean the stream or myself or any of the coaches referring to the Matrix, that's what we're really talking about, is that collective consciousness vibration of humanity and its teachings and expectations and the common vibration of humanity. And that common vibration has a lot of fear and judgment woven into it. So there are a lot of things that are presented to us that cause more fear and judgment if we really buy into them and if we judge them as this is terrible, this is awful, this shouldn't be, somebody needs to do something about that. And what we notice is that these things just continually remanifest in different ways.
Yeah.
And that happens in our lives as well. If you think about your life, humanity, planet Earth, and the universe is this sort of wormhole where all creation occurs really the same way. If we think about how the unwanted aspects of our lives and the wanted aspects of our lives, for that matter, are cyclical. They come around again and again and again and again until we change the vibration. So to change the vibration of humanity means that humanity, it all has to come from within. Humanity has to change its vibration. And what the Matrix has taught us is to run on fear and judgment. But notice that as long as we're fearing and judging and really putting the energetic focus toward what's wrong, then the problem never gets solved. So what we're going to talk about today is finding appreciation within the chaos, finding appreciation for every aspect of your human experience, even the things that the Matrix is continually presenting to you and saying, look at this scary, awful, terrible thing. Look at this thing. Look at how terrible and awful this world is and how terrible humanity is and everything that's wrong in the world and everything that we need to do to fix these things, but we never do. So the stream tells us that we need to find authentic appreciation for everything. So if we're finding authentic appreciation for everything, that has to include the things that we possibly judge as wrong or bad or awful or evil or however we label that stuff. So, how do we do that? So, Carrie, as a Taya master, do you kind of want to go into that a little bit?
Sure. So yeah, because of course you're going to feel those feelings. Oh, sadness or fear, or we're human, right? And that's okay. But when you begin to say that's so wrong and judge it, that's where I find that if I can just stop myself and breathe and appreciate that, that I'm safe. One, right? I'm not in that situation that the news presents. I'm safe, and um, and instead of judging it or being angry about it, I find that if I can just, because it's really hard to get to that radical appreciation unless you do some work, some inner work. But you can find simple things to appreciate, like I said, that you're safe and it's on the news. And then I remind myself too that the news is selling something, right? So they're going to make it sound way worse than it ever is. And so just appreciating that you can see that clearly and not and step away from the fear is, I think, the first, for me, the first step is stepping away from the fear of it all, and then trying not to find judgment in it, that they're having their experience, whatever it looks like. Yes, I can feel sad about it. Yes, I can be upset about it, but I'm not going to feed into it, if that makes sense. And David maybe can bring some clarity to that. But just recognizing that social media, the news, all of those things we see on TV, they're selling something, and they're selling fear. So,
Yeah.
and I always use the weather as a simple thing because that's easy not to judge, right? Weather is weather. But when I lived in Texas, my son was in Chicago. And of course, we would hear these horrible blizzards in Chicago. And, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. And people are dying, and there's this blizzard. And then I'd call him, and he'd be like, no, no, we got 2 inches, 2 inches of snow, which is nothing up there. But the
Yeah.
news made it sound horrible, right? So that started to teach me that, to be aware that they're selling the news, and that what they're telling you oftentimes is not the full story of what truly transpired. So then I could start to kind of remove myself from that and not be caught up in, oh my God, it's so terrible, there was a blizzard and people died, when that wasn't even really the truth.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
So
because for
that's
a
my
very long time, for forever, the weather was the common thing that all humanity had, that you couldn't really say there was anything to blame for it, right?
right,
Nobody would say,
right.
"Oh, we've got to stop this weather. This weather needs to be stopped. We need to pass a law to stop the weather." And lo and behold, the Matrix comes along and figures out how to monetize that with climate change, right? So
Right,
now
exactly.
we're monetizing the weather
Yes.
by instilling fear in climate change. It's really really interesting. And
Oh,
when
that's so interesting. And blame and judgment, right?
oh
There's judgment
sure,
and
and
blame in there. Yeah.
that's really what the Matrix is. If you want to know, when you hear us talk about the Matrix, and if you're new to our teachings, and if you're here, you're probably not, but if you are new to our teachings, the Matrix is not anything about the movie. It really is the true definition of the Matrix, the belief system, the commonly held belief system for the collective consciousness of humanity is the human created Matrix. And the Matrix is a vibration, as everything is. And the Matrix is heavily laden with fear and judgment at this time. And that's been true for centuries. And humanity came to understand that instilling fear gave you power. And there are the haves, which are the people that really understand how fear mongering works. And then there are the have nots, which is what the 99% of humanity that operates in fear. I've got to do this because I'm going to have a consequence. I've got to behave in a certain way and think in a certain way. It's very ego driven, and it causes humanity to behave in a certain way. And it actually keeps humanity at a specific vibration. And the stream has recently started talking about assigning numbers to vibrations just for the purpose of teaching, not because there's a specific frequency or anything like that. But they have said that humanity typically runs at a -5 vibration,
Mm.
which means 5 points below zero, below neutral, which is separated from source just enough to give away a lot of your creative power, but not so separated that you're completely hopeless. And that separation from source is the cause of everything that you might label evil. So when the news cycle is all about school shootings, this is happening so much again now. It really kind of calmed down during COVID because people weren't gathering like they were, but now people are gathering again. 2022, we're on this record for not just school shootings but mass shootings. So that's all over the media, and it's so easy to fall into the cycle of fear and judgment around that. What is easier to judge than someone going and killing innocent children?
Yeah.
That's something that the vast majority of humanity can all agree that they never want to hear about happening. They never want that to happen. And there's very few people that are on the side of being pro or for that, of course. And the fear around it, the fear mongering around it, will lead you to believe that humanity is just on this course downhill into decline, and everything is just wrong, and everything is horrible, and everything is terrible. But if you take that event and take it out of the news cycle and look at what's really going on the planet, what's really going on is that the vast majority of humanity is waking up, is moving about, finding joy in their day, thriving, and moving forward. And so the stream said a long time ago that positive is more powerful than negative, always, because positive really is all that is. Source is everything. Separation from that is what creates obstacles. And our polarized environment naturally creates separation from source. So in the separation from source, you can act out in all sorts of ways. So when you're already operating by and large at a -5, which most of humanity is, it's easy to get drawn into the rabbit hole of this negative narrative. And what we see happening is younger people who are coming of age, and they're consuming, through their teens, they're consuming a lot of information, and they are very much wanting to think independently. So they're really shutting out what their parents and teachers and other authority figures around them might be telling them. And there is this ego drive to figure things out for themselves. But unfortunately, at that stage of life, they also don't have enough life experience to understand. And a lot of people never come to understand this, but the amount of BS that is peppered into media. And so they become radicalized. And what we see happening over and over and over again are radicalized people doing radical things that are unwanted things. And then that gets blasted all over the place, and the cycle just continues. So the stream comes along and says the only way to stop a negative cycle in our lives or for humanity, it's all the same thing, is to just find appreciation for it. Well, when you say find appreciation for a mass shooting, that sounds insane.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely sounds insane. But appreciation is not celebration. Appreciation is not, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that happened, I can't wait for the next one. Of course not. Appreciation is, let's understand this on such a deep level that we're no longer judging it. And when you withdraw the judgment, you withdraw that power of focus, and the power or the vibration that powered that event in the first place begins to die. So,
You know what? I was just
go
going
ahead.
to say, I love the way you explain it, because it just makes perfect sense to me, because I was struggling with that, finding the words for it. I understand it internally, but finding the words to explain it. So that was beautiful. But the cool part, or the best part to me, is when you can do that, find the appreciation for it, move out of the anger or judgment, that's where the solutions lie. And then that's where we see that there's a lot of young people struggling with anger, depression, all those kind of things. So our solutions are not in being angry at them or judging them. Our solutions in finding inspiration, how to best be our best selves so that we can help them be their best self. So I love
Yeah.
that. Love that, because if you stay in that vibe of judgment, fear, and you're continuing, like you said, to keep that vibration or that anger and situations alive. And by
Yeah.
moving out of it and finding the appreciation for it, being inspired to help, to change, to by looking at it from a different view, we can elevate the vibration and show a way out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
the universe runs in opposition to universal law. We all know that. The universe is saying work hard. If you're lucky, you'll do well. Nothing's your fault. You know, everything is. I mean, the humanity, not the universe. I'm sorry. The Matrix is saying this, that all of this victimization, all of this, nothing's your fault. And really going deeper and deeper into all of that. Here's more fear. Here's more judgment. Here's more giving away your creative power because nothing is your fault. They need to do something about this, and never really identifying who exactly this they is supposed to be. I guess it's politicians, but I'm certainly not going to wait around for a politician to do anything for my life because I can't count on that. I was very fortunate that I was led to be very self sufficient at a very young age, and that self sufficient mindset has just carried through my lifetime. And everybody can be self sufficient because we create first with our imagination, and then the actual physical manifestation is fleshed out from that vibration that we create with with our imagination. So, hello, Cheryl. Good to see you on here.
Yeah.
There's a direct. She says that sometimes she thinks there's a direct link between her life and the Tya live. So here we are. Well, this is a timely topic for a lot of people because if you're on social media, which I've been off social media really since the beginning of the year, so I haven't been following a whole lot of it, but I follow enough just to kind of know what's going on out there. I'm off Facebook altogether. I will probably start broadcasting into Facebook, but I'm not going to go back and interact in Facebook. I just don't really care to do that. But what's going on with humanity right now, and this is why the stream keeps talking about the matrix, the matrix, the matrix, the matrix. You're just going to keep hearing a lot more of that from them because I've got a very clear picture from them now that that's really why they're here. They are here to offer humanity, not to lead humanity out of the matrix, because that would start to sound like, okay, there's some edict coming from them, and there's not. But to offer a path out of the matrix. And the path out of the matrix is to understand this web of BS that humanity runs on, which is okay because BS is just a belief system. The bullshit of humanity is just a collective belief system. And I used to cynically say for years that bullshit makes the world go round. I think that's because I had a very clear understanding from the stream that everything is an illusion.
Mhm.
Everything is bullshit. Everything is an illusion. And that's okay. So what do you do with that? Well, what's going on and what we're going to be talking about in the coming months, maybe probably for the rest of the year and beyond, is the fact that humanity, because of our ability to communicate, and think about how our ability to communicate via social media, the internet, how much that's changed in the last 25 years. And so now that we can communicate this way, we're coming together like never before for humanity, as far as we know. And we are becoming wiser. And in our becoming wiser, we're sort of saying, that whole religion thing that we were very often, raised in. Maybe that's not all true. Maybe that's not all factual. Maybe if you really go deep into it, you can debunk a lot of that stuff, and it just seems silly, some of it. And it doesn't really apply to what's going on now. Well, it doesn't, because ancient wisdom is just that. It's wisdom. It's the wisdom over time, but it was the wisdom for the time that it was created. So an ancient religion, an ancient belief system is not going to be up to speed with now. And that was the thing that I really got from the stream when I was guided to start sharing this and really dedicate my life to sharing this, is that ancient stuff is rooted in universal law, but the human belief system created around it was a human creation. And there was a time where maybe people needed to be told that if they ate raw pork, they were going to burn in hell. Right? Or that some God from above was going to strike them down, or whatever it was. Maybe that was the best thing for society at that time, to have this idea of this God, this deity in the sky, judging and penalizing and punishing and doing all of that stuff, is what humanity needed at that time. But now we're moving through a period where that's just being questioned left and right. And what I notice is, though, is that we still need a belief system. We need a human operating system. We do.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be of our own creation, certainly, but we need something, because if you believe in nothing, it's very easy to become very bitter and cynical, because generally everybody has some belief system. They believe in something. Um, I really enjoy watching Bill Maher. It's the only connection to politics I have. I just think he's smart. I like that he has people from all sides on. He questions everything. I love that about him. He is very famously an atheist. He believes in nothing. He believes that you're born and you die, and that's it. That's it. There's nothing out there. There's nothing beyond. This organic life is not of any intelligence, which I think is kind of crazy to think that. Gosh, you don't think that we're intelligently created? Look at us. Of course we are. But he doesn't. He doesn't believe in anything. But he does. He's famous. He has a very healthy ego. He makes a lot of money. So that's his belief system. His belief system is that his path in life is to be famous and to have a lot of money and to entertain people, and that is his thing, and that's okay. I think the people that are mass shooting and doing things of that nature, people that are really depressed and fearful, they have no real belief system. They feel very lost. They don't feel connected to religion. Maybe they were raised a certain way and it just didn't connect for them, and they're kind of out in the wilderness, kind of doing their own thing, and then they're very susceptible to being drawn into this narrative that these people are the reason you're not happy, and you need to take them out, and they become radicalized and they do things that are extreme. And that's true for people that start wars. It's true for people that harm other people at all. There's always that belief system where they've given themselves permission to harm someone else. And it's never from a place of source connectedness. It's never is, ever, never, for the sake of just harming them. And so we do need a belief system. And what I love about the stream is they've come along and said, here's a belief system for you. It's rooted in universal law, and then you can layer on anything or nothing if you want, because there's no judgment coming from the universe with what we do. And that concept of no judgment, and therefore no victimization, and no creation happening in our lives that we're not vibrationally attached to. And that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, because
Mm-hmm.
people want to believe that karma is all that is. If you do good, good's going to come back to you. And if you do good, nothing bad is ever going to happen to you. That's law of attraction. That's really what that is law of attraction. But we still move through vibrational flow. We still have our down days, our DTS days. The stream has made very clear what the purpose of that is, what the function of that is. And it makes perfect sense to me. And I hope in my sharing the stream, it makes perfect sense to everybody else. But we're moving through this vibrational flow. But what we do with that lower vibrational time is completely our choice. So if we're in a lower vibrational place and we're on social media and we get drawn into this negative narrative because it's our vibrational match, yeah, you can get drawn into that. So the
Yeah.
way to combat that is to have a belief system.
Yeah. Especially the fear. It, fear is very enticing if you think about it. People love scary movies. They go to the, um, fear is enticing. And that's why, of course, I believe that it's used to sell things, right? And it motivates people to do something out of fear, as you said, like, pay your bills on time, or the repo man's coming, or, all these, everything is laced in fear. And when you remove that, when you start to see it so clearly and see that it can be enticing, because what happens when you're in fear, right? Your heart rate goes up, and so it can also be excitement. I remember thinking when I was moving to Belize, I was so excited, but there was also some fear in there. You know, it's a new country. I don't know the rules, and but the adventuresome side of me, the excitement side, won out over the fear, and I did it. So fear, and fear is, I mean, we're supposed to be afraid of real fear, getting hit by a bus or stepping into the street, and the cars are coming. Yeah, you
Yeah.
should be afraid of it,
Yeah,
because,
fear
I mean,
has a place. It
it
absolutely has a
has
place.
a place.
But it's
But
just
when you
it's been hijacked, right?
Yeah, and when you live, like you said, David, I had this huge aha moment when you were explaining that about being just below neutral. You really are just operating in a fear mode. The what ifs, what if this happens? And when you can just step out of that and start to appreciate that, and just look at it in a little bit of a different view, of maybe excitement, like, ooh, I'm a little afraid, but let's go see. Let's be curious and see, and start to question everything. That's a big key. I tell people that all the time. Question everything. Don't believe everything you hear on TV,
Yeah.
and the Instagram life. Of course, you're going to post pictures when you're beautiful, and, in tropical islands, or, on vacation, and fancy new cars. That, you're not going to post the junk that happens in our lives, right? So everybody, it's
Usually not. Yeah. And
usually
I
not.
definitely, you know, beauty sells. We know that. We look at the
Mhm.
Kardashians. That's what they're all about. And that's okay. But it's when you start, if you see that in the two things that I love, the two reactions to things that I have adopted in my belief system is good for them. And
Mhm.
wouldn't that be nice? I
I,
love those two thoughts, those two vibrations.
I
Good
love
for
the
them. And then if there's
yeah,
something that I see that I would like to experience myself, wouldn't that be nice?
yeah,
And leave it at that. It's
and the
not, oh
good.
my God, what did they do to get that? Did they have plastic
Mhm.
surgery? They don't deserve all of that. They should be giving their money away to the poor. All of this stuff, if you ever read any of the comments on some of this stuff, you see all of that that's out there. And I think that that negative attention, you're just creating that negativity for yourself. You're not harming them in any way. Your judgment obviously isn't harming them in any way. And the flip side, really the root of all that is I wish I were experiencing that, and I'm jealous, and I have to lash out
Mhm.
at my jealousy of it. And instead of worrying about being jealous, because when you're jealous, you're watching somebody experiencing something or having something or doing something that you don't believe you can do or have or be.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. And when you make your vibrational reaction to something that you appreciate, wouldn't that be nice? And leave
Mhm.
it at that and move on, with your thought process to something else. That's a really nice vibration
It
because
is,
you're
and the good
welcome,
for
you're
them.
welcoming it in, but you're not needing it.
Right. And then when the good for them, it has to really come to me. And I think that's describes radical appreciation right there. When you truly feel excited that they are winning the lottery, they bought a new car, they have a new home, they went on a vacation, and you're so excited. Good for them. And really meaning it, really being excited that your friend or somebody on Instagram got to do something really fun.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, and then let it go and say, well, wouldn't it be nice? I'd like to go there too, and just leave it at that. Wouldn't that be nice? That's my favorite. I love when you brought that to my attention, because I say that a lot now.
Well, those two vibrations behind the vibration behind those two statements, that just feels so good. It's so relaxing into your own abundance, trusting the universe to deliver a fantastic experience in your life, not needing, I need that thing. I don't have that thing and I need that thing. Well, what's the universe going to say? We all know the universe is going to say, yes, you need it.
Hmm.
You're staying in a perpetual state of need because you believe that you need it. The wouldn't it be nice is so relaxed. It's so appreciative without that vibration of need attached to it.
Hmm.
Hi,
Wow.
David. Good to see you on here. So, if you have questions for us, you can type those in. It takes a little time to show up. I think we're on a little bit of delay from the questions popping up from YouTube. But if you're in the YouTube comments, then if you comment, we will see it here. If you're in the Patreon comments, we won't see it until after the fact. But I do appreciate Patreon comments because I do get alerted to all of those. So anytime somebody comments on anything on Patreon, it always I get a message that lets me know that it's there. So I see your comments on there.
I
So
love
we're talking about. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to share one thing because I remember yesterday in our live, Anne Marie and Deborah came on in the live coaching. And Anne Marie and Deborah I always learned something new from them. And they were talking about appreciating when you are down the spiral. And they gave all these tips and tools. It was lovely. But one of the things that I never thought of, and I thought, this is so simple, and it was to celebrate yourself. Maybe once a year on your birthday, I don't know, but most people don't even celebrate themselves. And like I said, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about finding appreciation. Is the one thing you can do is take a breath and celebrate yourself. Clearly, if you're listening to us, you have a home and internet and you're alive and you're here. And to me, the world is chaotic right now, but I am also looking at it as I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad that I'm here and get to witness this time where the old system, the old belief system matrix is breaking up. And yeah, it's kind of almost burning down, so to speak, or, there are a lot of serious things going on that you can perceive as serious, or you can perceive as, wow, I know something big is coming, something better, something uh, that we can experience. And what a great day to be alive, to get to experience that. So celebrating, I kind of changed my little mantra and meditation in the morning, which I always do, and just knowing that I'm excited to be here. I woke up alive, but celebrating that I get to experience all of this, all of it.
Yeah, that finding 3 to 5 things to appreciate first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. That's very powerful to do that.
So powerful. Yeah.
Then, as you observe, as you move about in the matrix, we're all in it to some degree. Understanding that when that fear narrative is being presented to you, that how you absorb and react to that is completely within your power. Completely.
Mhm.
If you're a little DTS, if you're -5, then you're more susceptible to being triggered by something. When you're above neutral, when you're +5, you're not as likely to be triggered, if at all. And when you get higher than that, then you really are in appreciation territory. In fact, you get above that and you're not even experiencing anything that could possibly trigger you because you were so source aligned, so source connected. And in those moments, and I hope that you've all experienced this, and you can type in the comments and say whether you have or not, but have you experienced a time where you knew you were up your spiral and you encountered something that might have been triggering in another vibration, but you were so high on your spiral, you just viewed it in appreciation? That's when you really know that you're up there because
Mhm.
the things very often are still present. You're experiencing them differently.
Yeah.
So think about that and let us know in the comments whether you've experienced something like that or not, because that shows you the power of your vibrational spiral, how you're a different being at +10, +15, even +5 than you are at 0, which is, we don't spend much time there, but that kind of, we say that it's neutral, but it's really a little below neutral if we're not in joy. So yeah, David, good. That's a good realization that you've had that happen, where you realize, gosh, if I were DTS in the past, I would have reacted very differently to this. But because I'm connected to Source, Source isn't judging, Source isn't fearing, Source is abundance. So what we're doing in this practice is moving ourselves to that Source connected spot more often. Sorry, the dust storm is still, there's still dust in the air. It's crazy. Plus, we had our floors done yesterday, so
Yeah.
they ground stone floors in my house yesterday because we didn't have enough dust going on. I thought I would store up some more, uh, but I have to say they look so much better. I appreciate it very deeply, even with the coffee.
Oh,
They just look so nice. So
yeah.
the the idea of appreciating what the Matrix tells us we're never supposed to appreciate sounds so crazy, and I
Mhm.
think that's why it's important to have a belief system. We all need a system, and have that belief system be rooted in authentic universal law, which is very simple. Law of attraction is the source of all creation, and polarity regulates that point of attraction. That's it.
That's
That is
it.
it. That is all the universe right there. That is
Mhm.
it. That is the root of everything. Those two things are the root of everything. And then if you
Yeah.
create a belief system that works with that instead of against it, then your life is going to become more and more and more magical day after day after day.
Mhm.
And that's why I created the Tya practice. That's why I am really focusing on expanding our community, because I believe we do need a belief system. I believe every human being needs a belief system. We're basically robots. We are. We're basically like a robot, right? I know that sounds crazy, but we are. And our operating system is our belief system. And if you have a computer that doesn't have an operating system, it's pretty useless.
Mhm.
It just sits there. It doesn't do much of anything.
Yeah.
So we need an
Especially
op.
if it's outdated.
And
Right?
Taya is a modern, up to date
Yeah.
operating system for humanity, because we don't need to be told that we're going to burn in hell if we sin. We don't need to be told that. I don't believe that, yet I still don't kill anybody. Go
No.
figure. I'm not murdering. I'm not out murdering people or harming people, even though because I don't, because I believe in heaven or hell or anything like that. I just don't care to harm anyone, because I am happy. I am one
Mhm.
with Source. I'm happy with myself. I'm not judging myself anymore. I'm not judging humanity the way that I used to. So when you get to that space, you are a much happier being.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I was just gonna say a little Taya tip, that I use too, and you can play with this, is, if the per if you're going in to pay for gas and the person is angry or upset or something, and you just smile and say, I see you're having a rough day. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being here and helping me get my gas." Something, some kind of appreciation. It changes their day immediately. The kindness. Instead of me being like, "Oh, then I could carry that, right? Oh, that guy at the gas station was so crabby and now I'm crabby." And no, I can flip that immediately. So play with that. Go out in the world and smile.
Yeah.
Appreciate the people that are around you.
Yeah. So David has a very interesting, and one of those things that I'm sure people watching us in the future will also think. So good question, or good comment. So David says he's found it pretty easy to detach from a world crisis when he's not personally involved. But if he were actually involved in one of the incidents, like living in the Ukraine right now, that's at war, or if he had kids in a school where there was a shooting, not sure that he could detach from it. I agree with that, because what we're not what we're doing is judging the path of another being when we think, gosh, I wouldn't want that to be me. In the first book, the stream went into, we haven't talked about pity in a while, but the stream went into pity and the vibration of pity. Like I see those people, I see the suffering, and I pity them. Well, Source doesn't pity. So when you're feeling pity, that's actually rooted in your ego. And really what it is, gosh, I would not want to experience that for myself. I feel bad that they are. And that is ego. And it's very understandable to not, you don't want to witness a parent just finding out that their child was shot at school. Of course not. But we are on a journey vibrationally as a source consciousness being here with a specific desire for expansion. And it's not for us to judge where these other souls are moving themselves to vibrationally and physically, because physical follows the vibration, to have an experience. So we are here on a different mission, perhaps. We are here on a mission of, gosh, we don't have that going on around us personally. So maybe our work is to be more on the leading edge of things. We're not in the muck suffering. But maybe that soul that is in the muck suffering wanted very much to come and have that expansive suffering experience. Because I know when I channel the stream, I am so tuned into that vibration of appreciation of all that is, that there is appreciation for the journey of souls in those situations. Because Source is not looking at that human being saying, oh, that poor human, it was so terrible that their life was taken tragically or through war or through a mass shooting or something like that. They're viewing an eternal consciousness that is choosing to come to physical for the chance of it, and know that it's an in out, in out, in out, in out eternal situation. So when you start viewing from the eternal perspective, the in and the out within 5 years or 10 years, tragically through illness or mass shooting or war, it's just not viewed the way we view it as a human being. So in the practice of Tya, we are appreciating the situation that they're in. And by appreciating it doesn't mean that we're wanting it for them or we're celebrating it or anything like that. The appreciation is deeper understanding of. It's a deep intellectual thing. And I was having a conversation with Michael this morning about getting back into doing all of this. And he said, you need to come out with a more entry level product than Tya. What are you talking about? He says, most people want to find the perfect partner or lose 20 pounds. Not that I'm going to be talking about that right now. Or, getting rich or manifesting a new car. That surface feel good stuff. That's what sells books, and that's what fills auditoriums. And that's what I know that. And there are tons of people out there talking about that stuff, and it doesn't interest me because that's true. That is a mass market idea that maybe is a gateway to this level of consciousness. But I love this. My passion is here. My passion is at this leading edge of, wow, what if we can move the needle for humanity beyond the fear and judgment of that stuff and actually see it stop happening because of that? Because there's no other solution for it. The typical, we just had well, I'm sure we've had more since then, but the one in Texas, which was pretty close to where you used to live, that's all over the news right now because there's just so many aspects of it that are newsworthy. They're going to draw people in and draw them into that matrix. But the solving of it is not available because you've got a divided, polarized society. One side saying, get rid of all the guns and this will never happen again. And the other side, saying, oh, no, it can't be about the guns. It's got to be about the crazy person. And if everybody would just find Jesus, then, that's kind of what's going on, is that sort of thing. And it doesn't solve anything. Because it's polarized, it doesn't solve anything. It's polarized because it's not of source. Of source would be appreciation, which means deep understanding. Deep understanding that we had a collective of souls who manifested this event. and it's not for us to judge, which means it's not for us to place ourselves and say, "Gosh, how could somebody be a Tya practitioner and appreciate that happening?" That is yet to be seen. We have had Tya practitioners move toward appreciation of events such as that in time because they came to understand in their vibrational journey that that was their only path out of suffering. So, in that manifestation of that type of event, we have worked with people who have chosen the path of, I can't be the victim anymore. I can't be in mourning and suffering anymore. I need a way out. And I understand the way out is to find appreciation for what happened. And they do. And it is very healing for them. So, can humanity get to a place where you get there instantaneously? Well, the stream says anything is possible. But that would also that shifting in vibration that would allow humanity to do that. The cool thing about manifestation, it wouldn't happen in the first place. That sort of event wouldn't happen in the first place if that radical appreciation of all that is was a more dominant vibration. And I do believe that personally, when you have that intention around well-being, whatever that looks like, safety, security, thriving, then that's what's going to be your manifestation. But I don't think humanity, by and large, is ready for me to go to a school and say, "Hey, all you got to do is detune fear and judgment, and you will never be party to a mass shooting." Maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah. I also believe that in our appreciation, finding appreciation for that situation, that in my experience with loved ones that have lost a child or lost someone recently, that I'm better to sit with them in that space than I am to sit in the anger and this shouldn't have happened. And because if I can come in that space of appreciating that they're having their journey and listening to their story and really being there in a higher vibration, it's much more loving and caring for them to find the healing versus sitting in the victimhood with them, if that makes sense. And not that they're feeling victim, but even the grief process. As humans, it's so hard to know what to say when someone's grieving, right? But when you come in appreciation and love for them, and even without words, just sitting with them, it changes that grief process for them. I've seen it. I've witnessed that in my own life. And so I love how you explain that, David, because many people, I think, take appreciation or forgiveness as it's okay for the act, for them to do that. It's not okay for them to do that. But can we step back and see that soul, that person was on their own experience, on their journey, and they were lost, as you said. So for the people that are left, the parents of those children, finding appreciation and allowing them to have their grief, allowing them space to work through the process, to me is the greatest gift you can give them.
Yeah.
And so I think that you're explaining.
And for some of them, I'm sure it will, quote unquote, ruin the rest of their lives. And that will be the experience that is had. And that's okay. For others, it might be a turning point in some way for them in their lives that, this tragedy happened. And we all know stories of people who manifest expansion in human form through tragedy. It happens, and it's not for us to judge. And again, the root of it is the fear that it could happen to us, and that's ego. And the root, as David is saying about the gun argument, is the same thing. I mean, if you look at statistics, we have a lot more of that going on in the United States, but we have a strong vibration around arguing about guns. We're very divided about that in this country. So what does that do? It produces more gun violence because the focus is there. The judgment around all of that is there. The focus is on it. So we're going to have more of that manifest until we take the focus off of that.
Yeah.
So the finding appreciation is always in the more intellectual path of deep understanding. And to be, gosh, I don't want to use the word successful. To be an effective Tya practitioner, you've got to be willing to move past that emotional reaction into something that's more thoughtful, more intellectual. You just do. And the practice is here for people who are ready to do that, who are tired of going round and round and round with, complaining and yelling and judging and being right and you're wrong. I mean, there's so much of that. And social media has just given it all a voice and a platform. Twitter now, Facebook, all of these places, all of this arguing. I think David talked about his Facebook feed. That's why I don't go on Facebook, because it's just the same stuff being recycled over and over and over again. And it's not moving the needle on anything. It's not solving anything. We see the same things reoccurring. The only power we really have is the power over our own human experience. And our own human experience can be one of thriving. Our own human experience can be one of abundance. Our own human experience can be one of appreciating vibrational flow and whatever that's bringing to our lives, appreciating the spinouts, appreciating the imperfection, appreciating not having my office ready for this live video and literally having stuff to be moved behind me. So I'm actually moving now. So it's almost like a prop. I signed on. I forgot that Dolly was back there. I'm like, wow, I really do look like I'm moving here. So I hope that this was a helpful Tya talk and diving into what radical appreciation really means and how we can apply it no matter what. No matter what, we can apply appreciation, because that's source's perspective always, even when the media is saying, but people were murdered. People are dying of COVID. The world's going to end if you don't stop climate change. We hear all of those things. And those of us that have lived a few decades have heard those things over and over and over again and realize that, wow, none of those things ever really happened. Not on the level that the fear mongering would have you believe. And again, yes, one mass shooting is one too many. I agree with that. But one mass shooting compared to millions that are thriving. But the news media is not going to focus on that. The matrix is not going to focus on the good news, because the matrix runs on a healthy dose of fear and judgment. Anything rooted in fear and judgment is going to draw more eyes, always. And if these teachings had some of that, we'd probably have millions of people into Tya. But we're not about fear and judgment. We're just not. There is no negative consequence for not doing this. You're going to have your life experience no matter what. What this is, however, is an operating system that allows you to be in a state of joy, clarity, and abundance more often, more and more and more often. And the cool thing about that is when you get that source connectivity going and growing systematically, you really do start having this awakening that I cannot describe any other way than this constant blossoming of new levels of clarity and new levels of awareness, new levels of appreciation of all that is, new levels of just not caring what anybody thinks, of anybody else's judgment. I'm not judging myself anymore, just enjoying my experience and even enjoying my spinouts, enjoying my DTS time, because I understand that is paving the way for new magnificent creation, for the expansion of my soul. And that's what this practice is all about.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so much fun. So I challenge anyone that's listening now or in the future to play the 3 to 5 game. I love that game. It's my favorite. 3 to 5 things to appreciate. So, and again, I always go back to the gas station because we all typically have to get gas, right? Eventually in our cars. So instead of going to the gas pump and complaining that gas prices are too high or whatever, appreciate that you can get gas.
Yeah.
Appreciate that you have a vehicle that you got to get gas, which means you're going somewhere. Appreciate that. It's simple. And just see how you can change your day in that instant through that magic of just starting to look at things in appreciation instead of fear.
I like that. Yeah, I think the tips of the Tya Talk, that's one. The observing social media or the matrix in the wouldn't it be nice and good for them vibration. I think that's a really good thing to kind of return back to. And then the final one is the big one, and that's when you do stumble upon the mass shooting or the coverage of the war or the injustice, some injustice of the world, something that this is put out there to do nothing but draw you into that fear-based discussion. Stop, just like with the Claude voice. Stop and how does Source feel about this? Source is in you. So get so personal with Source that you can stop in an instant and just say, how do you feel? How does my source self feel about this? If I take fear and judgment out of it completely, then how do I feel about this? How do I apply radical appreciation? And don't have that, you have that stopgap sometimes. Oh, no, I'm not allowed to appreciate that. And maybe you don't tell anybody that you're doing that. Maybe it's a personal inner thing. You don't need to go blast on, Facebook. Oh, I really appreciate the school shooting that happened today. Of course, you're not going to do that. But maybe I need to appreciate the cough more, right? Maybe you just stop for yourself and do a little quiet meditation. And instead of praying for them, which you can certainly do if you want to do, move it toward an understanding and an appreciation of the eternal journey, and that this life is always temporary, and that the only reason that there's an amount of time or method of exit that we believe we're supposed to all have is because the matrix has trained us to think that. Whereas Source is saying, not necessarily. There are beings that project in that don't make it out of the womb, that have an expansive experience. There are beings that project in that are born terminally ill and don't make it beyond 5 or 6 or 7 or maybe 10 years of age, and they have their experience they came to have, and they're very appreciative of every aspect of it, including the exit. Take on that perspective internally and see what that feels like. And we all know that if something feels good for us, that is a positive thing. That's a movement up our spiral. And we all know that all the things that we want to experience are up our spiral. So if that's what it takes to get you up the spiral in that moment, start with that exercise rather than getting drawn into the isn't it terrible, isn't it awful? And this can be lonely work. If you don't have people in your personal physical life that are into this stuff, it's hard to have a conversation with them sometimes like this. That's why the community is so important. I had a good friend that came and visited, and we kind of got into a discussion about something that was a hot button issue. And I kind of applied a more Tya, and I thought her head was going to explode. So I had to stop and say, "Oh, we just don't have this conversation." Because when you are a Tyist, you do think very differently about things. And a lot of humanity is not yet ready to go there. And it's okay. But it's also okay for us not to be caught up in that matrix if we don't want to be. This is a practice of choice, always. Always. You choose to be here. And sometimes there's a little there's a price to pay to choose to be here. And I'm not talking about the monthly membership. I'm talking about the price that you pay in your life. But once you go to this space, I can't imagine going back. And when I
Me
dip
either.
back into the matrix, it doesn't feel good at all. I don't want to be there. I would rather
And
be lonely out here on the forefront of thought than back in that matrix any day of the week.
well, and what I noticed too is that the people in my life that I love and are not where I am at, my appreciation that they are where they are at on their journey
That's a big
has
one. Yeah, a
absolutely
big part of
changed.
this is not judging them for where they are, of course, because then
Judge
you're right
them.
back in the matrix with them. Sure.
Right. And I don't get into the argument of this is the only way. You know, this is the right way. You need to follow me and do what I do. No, they get to choose what they're doing, and I can appreciate that totally. And it really has improved all of my relationships.
It's good.
And
It's also okay to set the boundaries and not get drawn into discussions, because
mhm,
sometimes people really want to draw you in to either agreeing with them or arguing with them.
yeah,
People seem to feed off of both ends of that polarized spectrum, and when you don't want to do either, sometimes they don't know what to do. But it's
mhm,
okay if that's where they are. You can
yeah,
just not participate in the conversation, and you can make that clear. And if they don't like it, that's okay.
that's okay because
There you go.
I appreciate them anyway.
Well, there are some Taya tips for you. Hopefully, we were helpful in this interaction. Leave some comments and let us know what you think, whether you're watching live or in the future. And for those of you that were on live and commenting, thank you very much, Sam and Cheryl and David. And there were a couple of more that I think didn't chime in that we saw you on, but it was good having you nonetheless. So thank you all. And Carrie, as always, thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you, David. I so enjoyed talking to you.
Bye now.